Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more news and politics. This time for Monday, the 25th of November. The year's winding down, baby, winding down. Now, first story we will look at, and we've got a load of stories and everything to look at where I just kind of missed a lot over the last several days. But we are starting from ProPublica. A third woman died under Texas's abortion ban. They had already had two die, now there's a third. Doctors are avoiding D&Cs and reaching for riskier miscarriage treatments. 35-year-old Portia Ngumezi's case raises questions about how abortion bans are pressuring doctors to avoid standard care even in straightforward miscarriages. Wrapping his wife in a blanket as she mourned the loss of her pregnancy at 11 weeks. Hope Ngumezi wondered why no obstetrician was coming to see her. Over the course of 6 hours, on June the 11th, 2023, Portia Ngumezi had bled so much in the emergency room that Houston Methodist Sugarland that she needed 2 transfusions. She was anxious to get home to her young sons, but according to the nurse's notes, was still passing large clots the size of a grapefruit. Hope dialed his mother, a former physician, who was unequivocal. You need a D&C, she told them, referring to dilation and curettage, a common procedure for first trimester miscarriages and abortions. If a doctor could remove the remaining tissue from her uterus, the bleeding would end. But when Dr. Andrew Ryan Davis, an obstetrician on duty, finally arrived, he said it was the hospital's routine to give a drug called misoprostol to help the body pass the tissue, Hope recalled. Hope trusted the doctor. Portia took the pills according to records, and the bleeding continued. 3 hours later, her heart stopped. The 35-year-old's death was preventable, according to more than a dozen doctors who reviewed a detailed summary of her case for ProPublica. Some said it raises serious questions about how abortion bans are pressuring doctors to diverge from the standard of care and reach for less effective options that could expose their patients to more risks. Doctors and patients describe similar decisions they've witnessed across the state. It was clear Portia needed an emergency D&C. The medical expert said she was hemorrhaging, and the doctors knew she had a blood clotting disorder which put her at greater danger of excessive and prolonged bleeding. Misoprostol at 11 weeks is not going to work fast enough, said Amber Trueheart, an OBGYN at the University of New Mexico Center for Reproductive Health. The patient will continue to bleed and have a higher risk of going into hemorrhagic shock. The medical examiner found the cause of death to be hemorrhage. Surprise! Surprise! D&C's a staple of maternal health care, can be life-saving. Doctors insert a straw-like tube into the uterus and gently suction out the remaining pregnancy tissue. Once the uterus is emptied, it can close, usually stopping the bleeding. But because D&Cs are also used in pregnancies, the procedure has become tangled up in state legislature that restricts abortions. In Texas, any doctor who violates the strict laws risks up to 99 years in prison. Porsche's is the fifth case ProPublica has reported in which women died after they did not receive a D or C or its second trimester equivalent, a dilation and evacuation. 3 of those deaths were in Texas. So yeah, technically, Texas is just like, we gonna protect the baby by killing the mothers. That's what they fucking done. Pretty much. Even in cases of miscarriage. Non-viability. They don't give a shit. They've made it so doctors can't perform abortions. Fuck Texas. They don't give a shit about human lives. They've allowed workers to work out in the sun without coffee breaks, even in days where temperatures reach over 100 degrees. Fuck you, Greg Abbott. And yeah, they're putting up razor wire because they see immigration as such a devious threat. Oh, God! Fuck you, Texas. Fuck you. You're full of stupid fucks. Your attorney general and governor are the worst types of human beings out there. Fuck them both. From the Lever. Secret recordings Netanyahu wants censored. A new documentary exposes never-before-seen video of the Israeli leader and argues he's prolonged the Gaza war to evade corruption charges. In the latest edition of Lever Time, producer Arjun Singh talks to Oscar-winning filmmaker Alex Gibney about his latest documentary, The Bibi Files, which uncovers explosive new police footage from the corruption trial of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The podcast comes the same week as the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, and the U.S. Senate voted down a measure to block military aid to his government. Gibney is known for his investigative documentaries, sheds light on the allegations against Netanyahu, including bribery and media manipulation. The film, which the Israeli leader tried to block with an unsuccessful lawsuit, reveals leaked footage of Netanyahu during police interrogations. The conversation also touches on the broader implications of Netanyahu's actions, his role in the Gaza conflict, and how his leadership has contributed to widespread division within Israel. Gibney draws comparisons to other corrupt leaders he's documented, exploring the psychology behind political misconduct, right-wing authoritarianism, and the lengths some will go to stay in power. But yeah, that's all they have on that. We're not going to listen to the piece because, yeah, we've already got a long one we're having to go through here. From inequality.com, housing developer threatens to evict Florida families. Residents of Little Abner Mobile Home Park in Sweetwater, Florida, have been given 6 months to abandon their homes. The 900 families living at the Little Abner Mobile Home Park in Sweetwater, Florida, were taken aback on Tuesday, November the 12th, when the Urban Group, a real estate consulting firm, issued a surprise mass eviction notice. After the initial shock passed, residents got organized and started daily protests. The letter warned the residents of the park, located 20 miles outside of Miami, had just 6 months to leave and search for a new home. The park's impending permanent closure demonstrates once again how the housing market fails to provide stability or reasonably priced shelter to the working class. Little Abner is a community for elderly people, longtime resident Vivian told Inequality.org in Spanish at Monday's protest. And I am receiving phone calls to my personal number from residents who are having panic attacks asking me, what are we going to do? The strategic location of the park has attracted the attention of developers looking to cash in on Miami-Dade's hot real estate market. For developers and institutional investors, the lack of affordability is not a crisis, but rather a gold mine, an opportunity to receive generous tax credits or earn windfall profits, even if it means 900 vulnerable families who have spent decades living at the mobile home park will be kicked to the curb. The Urban Group and the park's owner, CREI Holdings, have attempted to soften the blow by claiming that they will build new affordable and workforce units on the soon-to-be vacated property. Fuck you all. Fuck you all to high hell. The Urban Group's president, Matt Rosenbaum, said in a statement to Inequality.org that residents will have the right and first refusal and opportunity to secure an apartment with Little Abner 3 currently under construction, as well as in the future any affordable housing developed for the site, including the first month free. Go fuck yourself. The park's management is offering relocation assistance and has put together a financial incentive package of $14,000 to homeowners who vacate the park within the next couple of months. But given the shortage of available affordable housing units in Miami-Dade, residents of Little Abner are right in saying that this sum of money is not enough. Rental prices in Miami-Dade County have increased by a staggering 58% over the past 5 years. And according to Rent.com, the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is now $3,418 per month. That is goddamn bullshit. Miami can go fuck itself. This is simply out of reach for the residents of Little Abner and other working class tenants in South Florida. The money offered by management would barely cover 4 months of rent, and it represents only a fraction of the market value of the mobile homes the residents work so hard to build and maintain. I purchased my mobile home here a month and a half ago, an unidentified resident said to Channel 7 News Miami. It cost me $145,000. Why didn't they tell me right then and there to not buy? Mobile homes are one of the most reliable and important sources of affordable housing. It is illogical for Urban and CREI to say they are abruptly tearing down the park in the name of affordability, and unconscionable to wipe away the investments hundreds have made in the wealth-holding asset. Members of the Little Abner mobile home park community are working to determine their next moves. Some want more time and more money, while others are open to seeking legal action to prevent the eviction. Yeah, fuck, fuck those goddamn two companies. They can go and fuck themselves in the ass. Urban Group and CREI Holdings can both go to fucking hell. Fuck them both. Now, this is a local story from WJHL News in Johnson City, Tennessee, which is just across the border from Virginia. So yeah, it's an art exhibit at East Tennessee State Unit. Well, I don't want to say right across the border. It's still about a good hour, two and a half, something like that. Anyway, an art exhibit at East Tennessee State University's Reese Museum is generating controversy. The artwork, which is on display on the Fletcher exhibit at the museum, has faced complaints from state officials, community members, and ETSU students who disapprove of the message. The artist, Joe Gibbs, said his evolution piece is a response to fascism. The piece shows a swastika morphing into a cross, which is painted behind a portrait of Republican U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson. Get 'em, dude. Get 'em. Art's not meant to make you feel cozy and comfortable. The fascism we seem to have in this country has attached itself to the extreme right Christian groups, Gibbs said. So I just figured by having the cross evolve into a swastika with him there smirking, it would sort of give it's a very large political cartoon in my sensibility. Republican State Senator Rusty Crowe is appalled at the art piece. Oh, poor Republican bitch! We have freedom of speech. But freedom of speech has consequences. That's not what freedom of speech means, dumb dick, Crowe said. And I think the consequences in this case, in my view, should be that these people that approve of this on campus should not be on our campus. It's just not representative of Northeast Tennessee spirit. It's hateful. It's divisive. It's not good. No, it's calling out bullshit. He has the fucking right to fucking paint this. You can go and fuck yourself, Crowe. I fucking hate these Republican Tennessee cuck-ass motherfucking bitches. ETSU President Brian Nolan said he would review the process of allowing guest artists and speakers to present on campus, sending News 11 the following statement. I am aware of the concerns that have been raised about work selected to appear in this year's Fletcher exhibit on display in the Reese Museum. As a Christian and the son of a veteran, I can say that I personally find some of the views expressed in this year's exhibit abhorrent. However, as the president of a public university, which is bound by the laws of the state of Tennessee, as well as the U.S. Constitution, I must ensure that our university adheres to state and federal law. I am working to gain more information, and we will undertake an examination of the process through which we allow guest artists, speakers, and other third-party groups to present information on campus. Some students believe the artwork doesn't belong on the campus and that the message can be misconstrued. It's just an expression of raw emotions, almost truly trying to express how they feel. But I think that it's something that it's really been taken too far. Student Joseph Harlan Savary said, "It's the kind of like shouting fire in a crowded theater of doing something so to that extent. You're a fucking moron. You're a fucking idiot. You're certainly not learning there, are you, cocksucker? It's not okay to do that in public. Fuck you." Gibbs said he believes he has a logical reaction to faith being intertwined in government. He absolutely fucking does. You know, the founding fathers tried to set protections to keep the two separated. There is nothing that shows they wanted them intertwined. But there's plenty that shows they wanted them to have a fucking wall. The wall of fucking separation. But stupid Republican Christian nationalist fucks are trying to change facts. Fuck them. I see more and more people trying to force their beliefs or into governments and into the public square and are trying to denigrate people that are not people of faith to be somehow lesser or immoral, or their feelings don't matter. Fucking get them, dude! Get them! This dude is speaking the fucking truth. Gibbs said his pieces have been displayed at the Reese Museum before, but believes the current exhibit has received more attention due to the recent presidential election. He said conservatives should create their own art and that the Fleischer exhibit invites all social and political artworks, not just those left of center. Fucking yes! They have every opportunity, if they want to do a pro-gun piece of artwork, they want to do an anti-abortion piece of artwork. By all means, they might make something very effective, might change somebody's mind. It might really strike somebody rather than just complain. Get out there and make the art. Get your point across. That's what America's about, an exchange of ideas. Fucking yes! But the right is just full of fucking cunt-ass crybabies. Northeast Tennessee Congresswoman Diana Harshbarger, who also weighed in on the piece. "I am deeply appalled by this hateful display and equally disappointed it has been permitted on the campus of a taxpayer-funded institution. Oh God, I'm a Republican, so I'm gonna cry like a fucking little baby bitch. Shut the fuck up. It's an abhorrent mockery of my Christian faith and associates many of my close colleagues with such hateful symbolism. I feel sorry for the many outstanding students at ETSU, blah, blah, blah. Her comment ain't even worth fucking reading, 'cause she's so fucking full of shit. Burchett, who represents Knox and the several other East Tennessee counties, sent a letter to the university requesting, "Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you, whining Republican little twats. Go fuck yourself. God, you're the fucking whiniest cocksuckers in the fucking world. Anyway, let's go to the Ask Historians Reddit. What is the likelihood that many works in ancient Greek and Latin thought to be lost forever to Western civilization still exists, but only in Arabic translations and in dusty medieval manuscripts tucked away in madrasas and university libraries. Has any scholar ever investigated this possibility? Is there a history of searching through Arabic manuscripts or lost Greek and Latin writings? Any successes? How much do Western scholars really know about the Arabic manuscript tradition anyway? Not necessarily medieval, but pre-20th century as well. Okay, before we look at the answers and stuff, for those who are unaware, it was the Arabic peoples who kept Greek stories from ancient Greece. Much of what we know is because Arab scholars kept it, wrote it down, applied it to paper, so that we know of these writings. Otherwise, many would have been just lost to history. I can't give you answers about the Arabic manuscript tradition itself, but I do know what kinds of Greek, not Latin, text got translated into Arabic, and which ones Arabic-speaking readers tended to be interested in. The main thing to emphasize is that in the medieval Arabic-speaking world, there was virtually no interest in Greek literature for its own sake. The first ever Arabic translation of the Iliad came out in 1904. That doesn't mean people were completely ignorant to it, but interest was largely utilitarian. People wanted to use Aristotle, Galen, Ptolemy, Euclid as a baseline for new research. A rare exception is the Alexander Romance, which was very popular in a wide range of medieval languages, ranging from Latin to Armenian to Persian. A second point to be aware of is that Greek works that did not appear in Arabic were often secondhand, coming via Christians writing in Syriac. To give an idea, here's an exhaustive record of awareness of the Homeric Iliad in the medieval Arabic-speaking world. A brief 3-line report of who Homer was in Mubasir ibn Fatik's 11th century choice of wise sayings and fine statements. A reference to Homer as representative of Greek literature in a story reported in Ibn Abi Usaybiya's 13th century, the excellent information about the classes of physicians, and a single line from the translation of the Iliad into Syriac made for the Abbasid Caliph Al-Mahdi in the 8th century, which is quoted in the 19th century book that doesn't cite its manuscript source. Hesiod actually does rather better, partly thanks to his taste for aphorisms, and partly thanks to the quotations from Hesiod that appear in Aristotle. But yeah, I'm probably butchering the Arab names. I apologize, but I'm trying to pronounce them as best as I can. The upshot is that there's no reason to expect anything very much. Now, having said that, there was a definite taste for uh, Philhellenism in the 19th century Baghdad, and what you suggest isn't impossible. However, libraries tend to be pretty well cataloged. When a lost work does get found in a library, it's usually a case where a known copy was of unknown authorship and someone works out who the author was, and that's when people get excited. The model for finding an altogether lost work tucked away in the corner would be something like a discovery of the French composer Berlioz Mess Solennel in an organ loft in 1991, or the discovery of Bach's Neumeister chorales in a private collection in 1984. Those are settings where you don't necessarily expect the contents to be well cataloged, but that kind of environment isn't hospitable to manuscripts that are more than a couple of hundred years old. You're not likely to find a 10th century manuscript in someone's attic because a manuscript kept in the attic that long is likely to disintegrate or get eaten by bugs. Yeah. Anytime you have many of the ancient manuscripts, it's why the Constitution and the Declaration, copies of them, are sealed and kept in a condition that helps maintain their existence. Because if you just posted them up somewhere, they're going to fall apart. We know usually just a few centuries, a handful of them is enough to really cause documents like that to just, manuscripts to just kind of fall apart. And then, like he said, there's also bugs that will eat them. So it's fairly rare to find something ancient like that. When manuscripts do survive, it's because they were kept in good conditions in a library, and that means they'll be cataloged. Take the example of the Archimedes palimpsest. There was a lot of publicity around the preservation efforts made to salvage the manuscript after it was brought to auction in 1998 from the family that stole it. It's now been hidden away from public knowledge indefinitely, but the preservation efforts weren't needed because of the age. Up until around 1920, it had been kept in a succession of libraries, well taken care of, well preserved, and yes, cataloged, albeit not properly until 1899. The scholar who inspected it and published it in 1907 found it in perfectly good condition. The reason it was damaged is because it was stolen and kept in private hands for most of the 1900s. If it had stayed in private hands a few decades longer, it would certainly be a goner. That's just the kind of lifespan you can expect for something when something isn't in a library. For that reason, your proposal is, I'm afraid, unlikely. But hey, never say never. Yeah. We know ancient manuscripts that are like really old are almost impossible to find. I can't remember when the Dead Sea Scrolls were uncovered, but even then, after centuries, in the clay pots hidden in a cave, they were not all completely together. And so we're missing big parts of what were in them. Why is there so little interest for Greek literature in the Arab world? Was it specific to Greek or to every other culture? Should I get a dedicated post to ask this? Should I create a dedicated post to ask this? But I do know that kinds of Greek, not Latin text, got translated into Arabic, and which gives Arabic-speaking readers tended to be interested in. Are you saying that Arabs had no interest in translating Latin texts? You say the Arab translators were only interested in practical writings, hence the interest in Greek texts, but the Romans also left behind a substantial body of scientific and mathematical work in the Latin language. What explains the lack of interest here? That's all they've got. Yeah. Now we look at some charts. Pumpkin spiced latte price increase versus home price increase since 2005. How they've went up. Yeah. Blue is the increased price of homes. Orange the price of pumpkin spice lattes, both from 2005. Homes have went up 73%. They've almost doubled in a matter of 20 years. Pumpkin spice lattes pretty much have doubled. just one of those weird parts of data to look at. I'm like, okay. U.S. 5-year population trends. Data from the U.S. Census Bureau. So, yeah. We have how some states have grown, how some have shrunk based on census data, and they show by areas. Many of your northeast inner cities have shrunk. Coastal California has shrunk. And the Mississippi Delta has shrunk. Now, the Texas Triangle, I think that's what, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas, which would be San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. That has grown. Austin's in there as well. I think it's like in between San Antonio and Dallas, if I remember right. But yeah, that's grown pretty well. The rest of Texas has shrunk. You can see big losses, especially the further south of Mexico you go. Or Texas, not Mexico. And then up in the upper portion of the state, there's quite a bit of loss. So, yeah. The plains in general, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, quite a bit of loss. Your growth looks like it's Utah Mormon land. This area right here. No, that's Nevada. Utah's over here. My bad. But Utah has grown quite a bit if you look around this area. I don't know why I was calling this Utah. Quite a bit of growth up in here. Washington, western Montana, Idaho, and Oregon. This whole area. There's little spots where it shrunk a little bit, but for the most part, it's just been growing. The Mountain West, yeah. Idaho, Utah, Montana, and the Washington Spokane metro area, which is up in here, I think. Where is it over here? I know over here is Seattle and Tacoma. I'm not sure about Spokane. Anyway. Yeah. Mississippi Delta is shrinking. That's your New Orleans, the whole state of Louisiana, and the state of Mississippi, which seems to also be affecting Arkansas. Southern Arkansas just shrink, shrink, shrink. The upper actually doing okay, but yeah. Uh, Florida's growing. I don't know why. There's so much stupid down there. Miami Metro, which is down here. Tampa Metro. It's about right here, I think. Orlando. Jacksonville's up here. I'm not sure where Sarasota is or Cape Coral, Fort Myers. But all of it's pretty much growing in Florida. The southeast, South Carolina has been growing right here. I mean, there's a strip here that goes across the state that's shrinking, but the rest of it's doing pretty well. Tennessee's doing really well, especially about mid Tennessee. Georgia, right here. You got struggling down here. Atlanta's up here, right about there. Alabama, along the border with Mississippi, it's struggling, but the rest of the state's doing okay. North Carolina, right here. You're kind of struggling Winston-Salem area and down to here. Charlotte's like about, I'm wanting to say about in here. Here's Asheville. Where the hurricane hit and devastated so much because the Appalachian Mountains go through here and it just don't get hurricanes, but it decided to ride the mountains. Mid-Atlantic, growing. Delaware, look at how it's growing. Dark almost the entire state, especially further south. New Jersey, right here, it's growing except for the little corner up there. And then Maryland, right up here. Western Maryland struggling, but the rest of the state's doing okay. Northeast inner cities are shrinking. New York, which is right here. Washington, D.C., which is about right here. Philadelphia, which is supposed to be in this little split here. Boston, And that is right there. Baltimore City, not far from, I think it's over on this side actually, because it's closer to the harbor. So about right there. DC, Baltimore. They're not that far apart. New England's actually growing. Maine, either just okay to pretty good growth. Um, Vermont, which it's struggling in this one county here, but the rest of it doing pretty good. New Hampshire, Rhode Island is this little bitty strip right here. Massachusetts, general, so Boston shrinking, but the rest of Massachusetts doing pretty good, pretty decent. And then Connecticut, this strip. So yeah, the darker blue, 20% growth or more. And the darker red, 20% loss or more. Poor West Virginia just struggles. All of it's pretty much poor except for a few counties out in the little panhandle. Alaska has some horribly struggling places, but some growing places. So yeah. But anyway, let's go on to our next data set here. Next image of data. Point differential for teams that started 10-1. 65 teams have started off 10-1. The 2024 Chiefs point differential of 52 is ranked 64th. So they've had the smallest point differential as a team to start off 10-1. The biggest, most powerful one was the 1941 Chicago Bears, pre-Super Bowl era. Then you got Minnesota, 1969, which was in the Super Bowl era. Chicago, 1948. Yeah, they was blowing people out in the 40s, the Bears were. Pre-Super Bowl era. Green Bay, 1962, pre-Super Bowl era. Not by a lot, but pre-Super Bowl era. Philadelphia, 1949, pre-Super Bowl. San Francisco, 1948, pre-Super Bowl. Oakland, 1967, that would be Super Bowl II. So yeah, Super Bowl era. Baltimore, 68, Super Bowl era. New York Giants, pre-Super Bowl era in 1930. Detroit, pre-Super Bowl era, 1934. Pittsburgh, Super Bowl era, 1975. New England, Super Bowl era, 2019. Baltimore, Super Bowl era, well, no, 64, so it's pre-Super Bowl era. And that's Baltimore Colts, not the Ravens. 2024 Detroit. So they're talking about the Chiefs in the graph, but the Detroit's in it as well. Miami, 1973, Super Bowl era. Cleveland, 1947, pre-Super Bowl era. San Francisco, 2019, Super Bowl era. Green Bay, 1931, pre-Super Bowl. CRD. I'm not sure. Are they just trying to say cardinal, or is there a certain city they're or location they're referring to? Since all the others seem to have been based on their location. Anyway, 1948, pre-Super Bowl era. Minnesota, 1998, Randy Moss, Super Bowl era. Cleveland, 1951, pre-Super Bowl. Jacksonville, Super Bowl era, 1999. Minnesota, 1975, Super Bowl era. Philadelphia, 2017, Super Bowl era. Philadelphia, 1980 Super Bowl era. New Orleans, 2018 Super Bowl era. San Francisco, 1964 or 84 Super Bowl era. Buffalo, 1964 pre-Super Bowl. San Francisco, 1997 Super Bowl. Minnesota, 2009 Super Bowl. Green Bay, 1941 pre-Super Bowl era. Oh. Where was I? Green Bay. Okay. Dallas, 2007, the Super Bowl era. New England, 2015, the Super Bowl era. Kansas City, 2003, Super Bowl era. New York Giants, 2008, Super Bowl era. Green Bay, 1936, pre-Super Bowl. Philadelphia, 2004, Super Bowl era. Pot, 1926, earliest date on this list. That's going to be right around the beginning of the NFL. I'm going to say a lot of your early NFL teams Potsdam. A lot of them were not these big city teams. You had them in Ohio and some of the surrounding area, because that's where a lot of your NFL originates from. I'm wanting to say maybe it was somewhere like Potsdam. Where are you at? Anyway, I was going to look up Potsdam, but forget it. We'll go back to this. Uh, anyway, yeah, pot. Like I was saying, where is that at? 1926, pre-Super Bowl. Seattle, 2013, Super Bowl era. Washington, 1942, pre-Super Bowl. Denver, 1996, Super Bowl era. Washington, 1972, Super Bowl era. New York Giants, 1990, Super Bowl era. Houston, 2012, Super Bowl era. Denver, 1977, Super Bowl era. New England, 2004, Super Bowl era. Green Bay, 2007, Super Bowl era. Kansas City, 2020, Super Bowl era. Los Angeles Rams, 2018, Super Bowl era. Minnesota, 1973, Super Bowl era. KC, 1995, Super Bowl era. We're getting a lot into the Super Bowl eras. Buffalo, Dallas, New York Jets, Buffalo, Tennessee, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Philly, Atlanta, Denver, Indy, Philly, KC, and Oakland. Yeah. So, just kind of an interest. You had some big blowouts in early NFL. You really had some big blowouts pre-Super Bowl era. I mean, 1941, the Bears were just 1948, the Bears. Yeah. You didn't mess with early the 40s Bears. You really didn't want to mess with them. But yeah, they're talking about the 2024 Chiefs, how they're 10-1, losing to Buffalo, but they've got the second smallest point differential ever. While Detroit, where you at, Detroit? (2024) Detroit smashing teams. We could see a Kansas City Detroit Super Bowl, which I would love. Cleveland and Detroit are the only NFL teams that are in existence that have never been to a Super Bowl. Not only that, they've been around since before the Super Bowl era. So yeah, those are your two big hard luck teams that deserve a Super Bowl appearance. Not all teams have Super Bowl wins, but they have at least appearances. And last year I was hoping so bad for a Cleveland-Detroit Super Bowl. I was like, come on, let it be. Let it be. But if one of them gets in, that's fine. Okay, I'm still recording. Let's go ahead and... Damn, I'm already up to a freaking hour long. This is going, like I said, this is going to be a long video. Top 30 most watched, listened to original soundtracks from video games. Number 1, Undertale, Megalovania. Next is Devil May Cry 5, Bury the Light. Next is Minecraft Sweden. Next is another Undertale, Fallen Down. Next is Mortal Kombat, the Techno Syndrome. Bum 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 bum. Yeah. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the San Andreas theme song. Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies. Devil May Cry 5. Devil Trigger. Doom 2016 BFG Division. Hell yeah, man. Next is Halo 2, Blow Me Away. Next is Minecraft, Subwoofer Lullaby. Next is more Doom 2016, Rip and Tear. I love that fucking song. Next is Deltarune, Attack of the Killer Queen. Next is Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim, Dragonborn. Huh. 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 do, 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 do. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is next. It has to be this way. Next is Undertale Spider Dance, followed by more Undertale, Death by Glamour. Followed by Grand Theft Auto 4, Soviet Connection. Followed by Minecraft. Followed by the original Doom at Doomsgate. Followed by Omare My Time. Followed by Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, the only thing I know for real. Followed by Minecraft, Mice on Venus, and Minecraft Wet Hands. Followed by Assassin's Creed 2, Ezio's Family. Followed by Super Mario Brothers, the ground theme. Bum, 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 ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, bum, ba bum. Followed by Yakuza 0, Bakamitai. Followed by Halo, the Halo theme song. Followed by more Undertale, Hopes and Dreams. Followed by Last of Us, The Last of Us. So yeah, the top 30 most listened to, watched video game OSTs on Spotify, YouTube. I don't know much on the Undertale or Minecraft songs. I don't really listen to them. I've played Minecraft a good bit. Never really played Undertale. I love fucking Doom 2016 and the original Doom's theme songs. And then, of course, Mortal Kombat, the Techno Syndrome. Mortal Kombat. Bum, 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 bum. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. Yeah. So an interesting selection of most played. Oh, let's go back so I can close the increased size window. And more charts. This time baseball. Major League Baseball 2024 regular season, since it's just recently ended between Yankees and Dodgers, with the Dodgers being champs. ERA versus OPS, on base plus slugging by a team. The Rockies and the White Sox are not pictured because they're either too far in either direction, up, down, left, right, just somewhere has kept them off the screen. But it captures the rest. Your Super Bowl champions, the Dodgers, 78% OPS and a 3.9 ERA. Which, yeah, that's pretty damn good. Your better ERAs go to the right, your worst ones go to the left. And of course, up is better OPS and down is worse. Poor Angels, man. Poor Angels. At the bottom of the list on both. Yep. Just an interesting chart, I thought. Close that. Now we get some pretty cool images. Argentine army on a Soviet Balaz dump truck captured from the British during the 1982 War for the Falkland Islands. If anyone don't know, it's a little set of islands in southern Atlantic. I think it should be Argentinian. They're much closer to Argentina. But in the early 80s, there was a war between Argentina and Britain over the Falkland Islands. Yeah. People watching policemen inspect long hair in Seoul, South Korea in 1971. Those caught had their hair cut on the spot. So, yeah, you can see he's taking scissors. It's like, nope, you need short hair. You're a boy. It kind of reminds me of the stupid Republican bullshit going on now. A group of men sitting next to each other in a trench during World War One in 1914. They all must be from Scotland. They've all got their kilts on, the little berets. But yeah. Italian Caproni CA-310 Liberecchio light bombers from the Air Force of the independent state of Croatia at Zagreb's Borongaj airfield in the independent state of Croatia circa 1942. So yeah, I get a better look there. Image of Alma Rose, a violinist and the niece of composer Gustav Mahler. In 1930, here she was 24 years of age. 15 years later, she was the conductor of the Auschwitz Women's Orchestra and commanded so much respect from the SS that over 40 of the musicians survived thanks to her efforts. Only 3 died in camp, including herself. So, yeah, very admirable, saving lives as she can. This image is a nurse from the Health Corps instructs village women on methods and forms of birth control in Iran in the 1960s. In 1944, ground crewmen on Adak Island in the Aleutians, Alaska, worked on repairing and re-outfitting a Lockheed P-38 Lightning. The challenging conditions required meticulous maintenance to ensure these aircraft remained operational for their missions in the Pacific. As you can see in the image, the two, and there's a third individual. They've been working on the P-38 Decena Trágica Felix Diaz forces Felicistas with weapons in their last day of their fight. La Ciudadela, Mexico City, Mexico, on the 18th of February, 1913. So yeah, during the Mexican Revolution, popped my neck, it was killing me there. Nazi diplomats presenting Ford, yes, Henry Ford, development of the founder of the Ford Motor Company, with the Grand Cross of the German Eagle. From left to right, Fritz Hayler, German vice consul in Detroit, Henry Ford, and Karl Kapp, German consul in, and all of them are in Cleveland when this is going on in 1938. So yes, the Nazi Party is controlling Germany, but there's not quite World War II yet. But Hitler's already showing he's not a good person. U.S. Marine contingent on board of USS Indianapolis CA-35 in 1945. 9 of these men would survive the sinking of the cruiser in July of 1945. Most of the men would perish, unfortunately. 89-year-old Winston Churchill leaves the House of Commons for the last time. He was a member of Parliament for 64 years. This image from July the 27th, 1964. So, yeah. "64 years. So since more or less 1900. He's been member of Parliament. Stepan Patrashenko, the leader of the Kronstadt rebellion, in the sailor's cap on the left, that individual right there, standing among White Army officers in Finland in 1921. Yeah. Excuse me. Yugoslav troops surrendering to the Slovenian War during the Slovenian War of Independence in 1991. Marilyn Monroe signs autographs after she and Jane Russell leave their mark in the Chinese Theater on June 26, 1953. Chinese Theater is where the stars go. The Walk of Fame stuff. I mean, y'all can see it around them where names and stuff's written into the cement. So, yeah. Pull that up to see a little bit better. Yeah, Maryland there. But they've got all the people around watching. Chief Onotklosh of the Taku tribe. Photographic print from Juneau, Alaska, circa 1913. So yeah, one of your original indigenous Alaskan tribes. Then we have an image of the Artemis 1 rollout along someone's Subaru. But yeah, they're rolling out the Artemis 1 rocket. Now we get to actual stories. Oh, that's what this was. It won't let me see it, but essentially, Lowell, Massachusetts man proven innocent of a 1986 murder has been awarded $13 million in a lawsuit, but apparently the state only allows $1 million in a cap of awards. So he spends all that time in prison, and then he gets told you don't get everything you're owed either. From ABC 7 in, looks like Los Angeles or Hawaii, I'm not sure. Father of missing Hawaii woman found dead in Los Angeles, LAPD says. Amid the search for a missing Hawaii woman seen in Los Angeles, the woman's father was found dead near LAX, police say. Ryan Kobayashi had recently traveled to Los Angeles to help in the search for his daughter Hana Kobayashi. The 30-year-old woman went missing apparently sometime after a stopover in Los Angeles International Airport as she was traveling from Hawaii to New York City. From West Virginia, CBS 5. Former youth pastor facing nearly 200 sex charges against children appears in court. 200 sex charges against children. But they're worried about drag queens reading to your kids. From DW.com, German steel giant ThyssenKrupp to slash 11,000 jobs. It is Germany's largest steelmaker and has announced a plan to cut the workforce by more than a third by the end of the decade. Ouch. From The Guardian, a DHL plane crash in Lithuania may be the result of sabotage, says a German minister. Baerbock raises possibility of accident or hybrid incident after Vilnius cargo plane crashes 1 and injures 3. Yeah, DHL is a delivery company, so. From the AP, workers in Charlotte Airport, or at Charlotte Airport, an American Airlines hub, go on strike during Thanksgiving travel week. Yeah. All means solidarity with the workers. They should have their raise. And this is not necessarily your pilots. This is the other workers. The Service Employees International Union. So it's a lot of your ticket takers and baggage handlers and yeah. By all means, solidarity with the workers. Fox 11 Los Angeles. Texas State Board of Education approves school curriculum with biblical references. Of course, it's Texas. By an 8-7 vote, the Texas Board of Education approved learning materials that include biblical stories. How about the one about the bear that eats all them kids? The Bluebonnet learning materials are optional for school districts. The state offers a financial incentive of $60 per student to any district using Bluebonnet learning. Texas is determined to drag humanity into the dirt. AP, Middle East latest, Israel ambassador to the U.S. says Hezbollah ceasefire deal could come within days. Also from the AP, landslide and flash floods hit Indonesia's Sumatra Island, leaving 16 dead and 6 missing. Also from the AP, the Philippine vice president publicly threatens to have the president assassinated. Yeah, it's getting pretty big of an issue here. Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte said Saturday she has contracted an assassin to kill the president, his wife, and the House of Representatives Speaker if she herself is killed in a brazen public threat that she warned was not a joke. So, yeah, apparently they were originally together, the president and vice president, when they entered office. They agreed upon a lot of things, but it's become so split. Yeah. Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Sara Duterte. From the Toronto Star, Somalia says 24 people have died after 2 boats capsized in the Indian Ocean. From the AP, Ukraine shows the AP the wreckage of a new experimental Russian missile. It's so hard to take anything seriously in this war because there's so much Russian misinformation. And you know, there's also the possibility of Ukrainian misinformation, so it's like, I'm there to back Ukraine, but I don't want bullshit sold to me. Trump vows new candidate Mexico-China tariffs that threaten global trade. Of course, because he's a fucking moron! Yeah. I think it was a 25% tariff he wanted to place on Canada, Mexico, and a 10% on China. The dumbass is one of the dumbest fucks. And people elected the cocksucker thinking, he's gonna be smart! No! He's a fucking dumbass! From the Telegraph, Pam Bondi, picked to replace Matt Gaetz, wants to deport pro-Palestinian protesters. Attorney General nominee has long history with President-elect and was once left in a tight spot over a legal case against Trump University. She's such a fucking shill. Tulsi Gabbard is a uniquely bad choice for Director of National Intelligence, but she's perfect for Trump. Yeah. She's went off the fucking lunatic fringe edge. She used to be on the left, and it's just went from the left, go. From the Hill, MLK Jr.'s daughter, Americans should not retreat or recoil after a Trump win. Stand and defend your ground. President-elect Trump's inauguration day will be held January the 20th, the same day as Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Despite her opposition to the incoming president, Bernice King, the youngest daughter of MLK, said she feels the collision of the two events is a small win. I'm glad that if it was going to happen, it happened on the King holiday because Dr. King is still speaking to us. From The Guardian, woke didn't lose the U.S. election. The patrician class who hijacked identity politics did. Why is this simple explanation being so widely embraced? Because it doesn't require a commitment to real structural change. Yeah, it has nothing to do with wokeness. It's all about the fact neoliberal politics have led us down a shit fucking hole. Trump reportedly plans to kick trans troops out of the military within days of inauguration. Trump's actions could eject thousands of the current trans service members. From The Independent. Do we even have thousands of trans service members? From The Guardian. Trump Pentagon pick attacks UN and NATO and urges US to ignore the Geneva Conventions. Hegseth writes scathingly of key institutions and says, if you love America, you should love Israel. Fuck you. You can go and fuck yourself in the ass. Hold on. Do you feel that? It's you getting fucked in the ass. Fuck you. From Truth Out. Inside Christian nationalists' legal long game to end church-state separation. Fuck you. Church-state separation should be strengthened. Christian nationalists have made inroads in Texas with their push to eliminate the separation between church and state. We got an image here of the Orion and Horsehead Nebula and cosmic dust from a backyard telescope. Image of the Orion and Horsehead Nebula along with surrounding cosmic dust using my backyard telescope over 12 hours of exposure with the ZWO 2600 MC astronomy camera. The final image was processed in PixInsight. So yeah, Orion and Horsehead Nebula. From The Guardian. Ukrainian boxing champ Vladimir Klitschko calls out Joe Rogan for repeating Russian propaganda. Because, as we know, republicanism makes you stupid. And Joe has went down that fucking rabbit hole and has become dumber and fucking dumber for it. Olympic gold medalist argues in video that podcasters' remarks about war in Ukraine is a result of Putin-led plot. Yeah, we know this for a fact, that Putin uses lies to attack people. It's not a fucking surprise. From LBC. I'm not surprised they want a rerun, says Sir Keir, as 2 million people signed petition calling for a fresh general election. He's going downhill as one of the worst prime ministers, and they've had some doozies already for a while now. From the New Zealand Herald. Louse methanol poisoning. Danish women reportedly vomited blood for hours. Text messages from 2 Danish backpackers have died in a mass poisoning in Laos suggests the pair had been vomiting blood for 13 hours. So yeah, that's going on. From The Guardian. Oxford scientist resigns from the Royal Society over Elon Musk's continuing fellowship. Professor Dorothy Bishop said fellowship was a contradiction of all the values of UK's National Academy of Sciences. I don't blame her one bit. Elon Musk's a dumb fucking sumbitch. From Middle East Eye, the ICC arrest warrants show that Israel is swiftly becoming a pariah state. Israel's response has been bullish, but a public that thinks its army is not committing atrocities is slowly waking up. From Al Jazeera, Pakistan's capital in lockdown as Imran Khan supporters protest. Supporters of ex-Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan are descending on Islamabad, demanding an end to what they say is a political persecution of the popular political leader. And from Haaretz, AG advises against investigating remarks by Israeli ministers, MKs, on suspicion of inciting to harm Gaza civilians. Yeah. Attorney General Gali Baharav Miara accepted the state prosecutor's recommendation that there is no public interest in investigating the remarks 3 days before the ICC's decision to issue arrest warrants against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Yeah, I keep having to open and close so I can get the stuff here. I've got so many tabs open, it's not showing them all. Just, okay. Making sure. HRW says Israel's strike that killed 3 Lebanon journalists, apparent war crime. So, yeah, we have some videos here. I'm going to have you stop, back up, open. Yeah, Florida cop who fatally shot university student during seatbelt stop was involved in a vicious beating during another stop, has been sentenced to 24 years in prison for sexually exploiting a teen girl. So yeah, welcome to the Great Cops.
A former Jacksonville Sheriff's Office detective now sentenced to 24 years in prison.
Josue Garriga.
For child sex crimes. 34-year-old Josue Garriga learned his fate within the past hour inside a federal courtroom.
Now, the judge said that the offense is extraordinarily serious, one of the most serious that she's seen, noting Garriga took advantage of a child that he knew was struggling and used his badge to do it.
Garriga pleaded guilty earlier this year. According to court documents, he pursued.
So, yeah. This slime ball causes more problems than he fixes. This is why I think there needs to be serious reform on the way cops are used. Well, I didn't want you to do that. I just wanted to do... Okay, seeing how it shows up on the other one when I enlarge it. Anyway... Go back. My bad. Just wanted to bring that up. Pause. Shrink you down so we can watch it. Al Jazeera investigations reports on the family of a 65-year-old grandmother, Safiya al-Jamal, who was critically wounded by Israeli troops raiding her home. Israeli soldiers mocked the family as they lay wounded, used one family member as a human shield, and then ran over Safiya al-Jamal using a tank.
بشكل مباشر صاروا يرشوا فينا بالرشاش تبعهم والقنابل يرموها علينا.
When Israeli soldiers stormed, the family say Safiya tried to protect them. She was telling them, baby, I held a white flag to show we were civilians. They shot the poor thing.
القنابل كانت تنفجر فيها لأنها كانت هي الواقفة بنصي تحمينا. كل بطنها يعني ما ضلش شيء فيه كله تمزع. واختي الثانيه تمزع ثومها غير هيك معاند كمان اللي تصاوب بظهره والطفله البنت الصغيره بظهرها شظايا وهم بيضحكوا علينا واحنا بنطلع ودمنا بينزف.
وهو حمل قبالي ونزلنا وين على الدرج. نزلناها في الدبابه جرحها غميق طبعا وبس امي كانت تتحرك كانت عايشه. لفوا فيها لفة وكان يشتموا علي كلام يعني يغلطوا على الست الوالدة الله يرحمها. بعدين نزلوني بالدبابة ومرقوني في مناطق كان يستخدموا فيها كدرع بشري مسكني من كتفي قدام ويمشي فيها يمين وشمال.
Out there in front of their face.
طلعوا في قلب الدبابة.
How can you still support
وسكر باب الدبابة
genocidal
ورجع على أمي الدبابة
on the same level as
كنت واقف جنبها أمي هان متر وأنا جنبها ففجأة أنا بفكر بده خلص شغل بده يروح فبتفاجأ إنه رجع مرة واحدة عليها صرت أصرخ ونادي أمي 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 محدش كان يسمع.
جثتها هان كانت هنا سابتها الدبابة وأخويا كان واقف إلها وجو دعسوا عليها ما خلوش يقرب عليها طبعا للجثة.
So they drove over this grandmother.
עברנו כמויות של דריסות מחבלים חיים ומתים במאות שדברים שאתם לא יכולים לדמיין לכם במוח.
كل لحظة بتذكر فيها أمي بتقطع فيها يمكن لو قتلني أحلم علي إنه يعمل اللحظة هذه.
Fuck the Israeli government. Fuck the IDF.
إحنا إلاش دفناها ولا شفناها ولا إشي.
I don't know how anyone can fucking support the cocksuckers. They're evil.
بنام كل ليلة وأنا بحلم فيهم الجنود واحد كل اللي فاتوا علينا عملوا فينا والله ما
inhuman. Yeah, fuck the goddamn Israeli monstrosity. As a child gives an impassionate speech which brings him to tears, a woman proudly mocks him by waving an Israeli flag. See, fuckers like this are insufferable. They don't care about facts.
People are dying, about 46,000 dead, and organizations claim there are more. Plus injured, hospitalized, and starving. I have family there, and every day is a waiting game. If this was happening in any other countries, or even America, had this going on, I'm sure no one would watch. So why should we sit and watch the brutal murder of children every day as of right now you're complicit in a platform of silence? if you don't use the power of your voice to call for the end of this ongoing genocide, if you are not disturbed, you should be.
You absolutely should fucking be. Developing nations hit hardest by climate change say they were pressured to accept an insultingly low deal at the UN COP29 summit in Azerbaijan, where wealthy nations pledged to give $300 billion a year by 2035. Don't look at the U.S. They don't even treat their citizens right. They're afraid to even spend that much on them. Developing nations have called the deal an insult.
It is more than a joke. It is deeply insulting. It is unacceptable. And we'd rather fight for another year than accept a really bad deal.
The UN summit in Azerbaijan, with rich countries pledging $300 billion a year to help the least developed countries combat climate change by 2035, but poor nations said they were forced to accept an insultingly low amount as they face the worst impact of climate change despite not driving
This document is nothing more than an optical illusion. This, in our opinion, will not address the enormity of the challenge we all face. Therefore, we oppose the adoption of this document.
They throw text at us at the last minute, shove it down our throat, and then for the sake of multilateralism, we always have to accept it and take it. Otherwise, the climate mechanisms will go into a horrible down spiral, and no one needs that. This is the only space that we have to negotiate and to work towards our common goals. We accepted the text because we could not live back without a text, but we're not satisfied whatsoever.
Dozens of delegates have walked up in the negotiations in frustration. The sum is nowhere near the 1.3 trillion they said they need.
Our needs and wants known. They're being ignored, and that's why we've walked out.
So the agreements take place between nation states, but there are other actors involved. You have corporations like fossil fuel interests. You have other private interests. You also have nonprofits or non-government organizations, activists and research organizations who are informing these kinds of agreements. But what we have to understand is, even if it's technically an agreement, it is not always a fair one.
We have worked hard with all of you to ensure that there is significantly more money on the table. We're tripling the 100 billion goal, and we feel it is ambitious, it is needed, it is realistic, and it is achievable.
Even if you didn't get everything you sought, what you delivered will make billions of lives safer and better.
So the small island nation states and the climate vulnerable forum countries do not feel that their voices were heard, but ultimately you have to agree to something rather than calling it an entire failure. So people make concessions, but the bargaining power of poorer countries is often much less because of these wider power structures that exist.
Protesters from the governments of combat climate change. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the biggest part of the fault is at the richer nations. They're the ones who have took the time to develop all the devastation and everything, and it's like they just don't give a shit. Israeli soldiers burning pictures of a Palestinian family, including women and children, in Rafah yesterday. These are memories. See, this is what I'm saying. The IDF and the Israeli government are part of the monster that Israel has become. The demon it has become. We need people to push back. TD Banks mortgage fraud uncovered. Intentional deception to steal homes. Yeah.
That I covered about how TD got busted money laundering and they had to pay a $3 billion fine, USD. And we were all kind of sitting here wondering what next shitty thing was going to happen with TD and how it was going to blow back on their customers. Well, fear not, because I have a mortgage with TD and my banking with TD. And last week I got a letter that was dated October 21st, and it says, important changes to your property tax component of your TD mortgage. And I had my heart fall out of my butthole and was like, what? And it says, we're reaching out to let you know that TD is discontinuing the collection and payment of your property taxes on your behalf. And I was like, that's super fucking weird. But then I went on to read the letter, and it talks about how it's going to only kick in after November 18th. And one of the reasons why they would stop is because there's a credit in your account. And I knew that I had been overpaying my property taxes. So I was like, oh, they mean like just for this chunk of time. They mean just till the end of the year, because it's almost 2025. And I was like, that's super weird. And it talks about how, like, if you have a credit, we'll deposit money into your account. And I was like, I've just overpaid. I've overpaid my property taxes. We're good to go. So yesterday, I get a deposit in my account, a credit in my account, and it says property tax refund. But it was way more than I expected it to be. And I was like, that's not great. That's suspicious. So I emailed my town. Now, I'm super fortunate because my town has gone really digital, and so it's quite easy to get a hold of people in different departments, but I also know how to do it. Like, I know where to look, and I know who I should be contacting about what. So I emailed this person who I know handles the property taxes, and I was like, hey, the fuck is going on? And the response I got back this morning was, oh, you must bank with TD. They've abolished their property tax program. They're no longer collecting and paying property taxes. But fear not, we can set you up on monthly payments so that you don't have to try and come up with a lump sum. You have to get set up by December 15th. And I was like, wait, what? And they were like, don't stress too, because the credit was actually just the payments that you've made into 2025. So we can set you up on this account. It'll automatically come out with your mortgage, you know, bingo, bango, everything's good. And I was like, but why are they doing this? This is very odd. So I ran to the interwebs because I assumed that TD Bank would announce that they are not doing this. And instead I found a Facebook post, a couple like really random reports saying that they've been doing this really quietly for all of 2024. This TD post saying, no, we still collect property taxes, even though it seems like they are pushing everybody off this program. And a Reddit post from a month ago also saying, what the fuck is going on? So I went back to this letter and I was like, okay, what am I missing? And I realized that I never bothered to read the second page, which 100% consumer error. I should have read the second page. But I never do because they're always fucking stupid, and I've been conditioned to like never read these because it's always something stupid like we're changing and to it, and it never provides me with information. So on the second page, there's the exact wording, the existing wording column, and the new wording column. And in the existing wording column, it says, we will open a property tax account for your mortgage loan. We'll tell you how much you have to pay. We'll pay this amount. The new wording, you will be paying your own property taxes to your municipality. You agree to pay your property taxes as soon as they are due, and then you will send us proof of that payment. Way to bury the lead, TD. Now listen, I'm trying really hard not to wear a conspiracy tinfoil hat, but what an effective way to be able to foreclose on people's homes, hey? You've had a system in place for decades that people have become complacent to, and they assume that it's part of their service and it's part of the expense of their mortgage, that you collect the property tax, you pay the property tax. And all be all. Every June, July, I get a letter in the mail saying how much my property tax was, and then I assume that my bank is paying it from the money that they collected. Right. Every June or July. So come September, October, November, you're going to have a ton of TD homeowners who are in arrears on their property taxes. And either they're going to have to go to the bank hat in hand and say, please let me have a short-term predatory loan that's super high interest so I don't lose my house. Or people are going to be pushed into foreclosure because they failed to pay their property taxes and now they're so far in arrears that they can't catch up. What an effective
nothing will be done about
way
it
to get
because the Trump administration loves this kind of shit.
10 out of 10, love that for you.
You know, he's done been loading his fucking cabinet full of these goddamn, like, snakes like that. So, nothing will be done. What the hell? Japanese lawmaker proposed women over 25 can't get married, and women over 30 have to have their uteruses removed at 30. What kind of Republican ass stupidity shit? Has the entire fucking world gone stupid?
A Japanese lawmaker proposed that women over 25 cannot marry, and women over 30 must have their uteruses removed as a way to increase Japan's declining birth rate. I'll explain. Naoki Hayakuta has sparked widespread outrage with his controversial proposals aimed at addressing Japan's declining birth rate. Hayakuta's remarks were made during a YouTube program where he discussed potential measures to increase Japan's birth rate. He suggested that all women in Japan should undergo forced hysterectomies after the age of 30 and be banned from marrying after 25. Additionally, Hayakuta proposed restricting women's access to education beyond the age of 18 to prioritize childbearing over other pursuits. According to him, these extreme measures would pressure women to have children earlier, reversing the nation's demographic decline. Japan has been grappling with the declining birth rate and an aging population for several decades. The country's birth rate has dropped to its lowest level since 1969. Japan's health ministry reported only 350,074 births between January and June, marking a 5.7% decline compared to the same period last year. Women across Japan fiercely condemned the Conservative Party leader's remarks, calling them oppressive and deeply misogynistic. Facing intense backlash, Hayakuta later issued an apology, claiming his comments were merely a hypothetical idea. He then stated that they were meant to spark discussion within the framework of a science fiction storyline, and that he did not personally support these ideas. What do you think about Hayakuta's remarks? Let us know in the comments.
It's typical Republican bullshit, but in Japan. The European Union Foreign Policy Chief says member states must enact ICC warrants. Flatly dismisses Israel's assertion of anti-Semitism. Get 'em, dude. Get 'em.
The states who signed the Rome Convention are obliged to implement the decision of the court. is not optional.
The Israeli government has said that this decision, these arrest warrants, are anti-Semitic.
Oh, they can fuck off.
We should not banalize the word anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic brings back to the worst moment of our history, to the darkest moment of our history, when people were killed in mass because they were Jews. And we said that this will never happen again, and we have to use this word with the precaution, with the moral precaution. The Secretary General of the United Nations is not an anti-Semitic. The Prime Minister of Spain is not an anti-Semitic. I am not an anti-Semitic. All the workers of the United Nations agencies working for the Palestinian people are not anti-Semitic. You should not use this word as a banal word. It's word has to be kept in accordance with the dramatism and the tragedy of the Holocaust.
Get him,
you
dude.
cannot say that every time that someone disagrees with the policy of one Israeli government is being accused of anti-Semitism. I have the right to criticize the political decisions of the Israeli government, be it Mr. Netanyahu or someone else, without being accused of anti-Semitism. This is not acceptable. That's enough.
Abso-fucking-lutely. More disgusting Israel actions here. The Israel army destroys a mosque in the village of Ta'ir Harfa in southern Lebanon. In part of their fucking illegitimate war. Fuck Israel. How would they like it if someone came in by force and purposely knocked over the fucking Welling Wall? Cocksuckers. Canada's government condemns protests against NATO complicity with Israel. Dozens of people have protested against NATO for what they say is the alliance's complicity with the Israel military as it conducts genocide in Gaza. Riot police in Montreal clashed with activists as protests turned violent. Windows were smashed at the convention center where NATO delegates have been meeting for their annual something. Smoke bombs were also lit in the demonstration. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and other government ministers condemned the protests, referring to them as acts of anti-Semitism. Several arrests were made. The tossing around of anti-Semitism, frankly, has made it lose any real, honest, fucking meaning. The fucking term means shit. Anymore, it don't mean a fucking thing. Protesters took over the New York Times lobby, demanding it retract its lies on coverage of Gaza and call for an arms embargo against Israel, and accusing the newspaper of anti-Palestinian bias.
New York Times is manufactured consent from the river to the sea. New York Times, you can hide. You're committing genocide.
Hmm.
You set Palestine on fire!
You know, is this the 1960s again, where protesters are attacked and the fucking rich and powerful can get away with what the fuck they want? Is that where we're at? Actually, it was what, 60s, 70s? I'm so goddamn sick and tired of this shit. Thank you, Craig Murray, for amplifying the voices of the voiceless. While an Israeli drone roams over his head, threatening to bomb him, Scottish journalist and former UK diplomat Craig Murray destroys Israeli propaganda and exposes Israeli atrocities committed against civilians in Lebanon.
Well, we still have a Israel drone overhead threatening to bomb us. This is the site of somewhere they did bomb. They destroyed the civilian houses both sides of here. And it's extremely plain these are civilian houses. I've climbed to the top here, I've looked through everything. There's nothing whatsoever to, justify the claims of Hezbollah installations or missile bases or anything. These were civilian homes. The detritus is plainly, it's heartbreaking. 2 people died here on this spot. 12 more were seriously injured. Some may have died since. We actually haven't had an update. But when you're here and you see it, you really understand. You really understand. And we are surrounded by other buildings which have become uninhabitable because of these blasts. So the total number of people who lost their homes here would be 10 or 12. And you're driving along at Baalbek on a lovely sunny day. Everything's perfectly normal, other than the drone overhead. And then suddenly you pass these scenes of random death and destruction. It's really horrifying.
Yeah, Israel is modern day Nazi Germany. Director of Kamal Adwan Hospital speaks out after injury from Israeli strike.
سنبقى نقدم هذه الخدمة مهما كلفنا. احنا لحتى الآن بنناشد العالم وسنناشد لعل وعسى أن تكون هناك ضمائر حية. أنا أصبت وأنا في مكان عملي وهذا شرف لي إني أنا أصاب في هذا المكان. دماءنا ليس أحسن وأغلى من دماء الكوادر ولا الناس البقية، ولكن هذا لن يوقفنا. سنبقى نقدم الخدمة الإنسانية في مكان معلوم لدى العالم. سنقدمها بإذن الله مهما كلف الأمر ومهما طال الأمر ومهما حتى لو كلف أرواحنا باقيين صامدين. سنقدم هذه الخدمة أمام كل العالم المتخاذل، العالم الظالم المجرم بحقنا.
See, this is the kind of shit that makes me sometimes embarrassed to be a fucking American, because we allow this shit. We got an image here in this one. 188 journalists killed so far in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This shows the faces. and names of those taken. Police in Mozambique shooting tear gas on kneeling protesters amid election fraud protests.
Tempos menos merda. Sim, para aquele gajo é sempre aquele gajo que provoca as coisas. Sempre.
Lastly, our last video here. Former Israeli Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked is denied entry into Australia.
Shaked, I'll visit you in better days. Australia and Israel have always had very warm relationship, and this current anti-Israeli government will be in the end just anti-Semitic anecdote in the relationship between the two countries. So see you soon and love you all.
Fuck you. But we'll go ahead and end this episode there, as it's a painfully long 2-hour video. But thank you all for watching. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll put in links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.